I know, that's why.
Blanket and I need
That's why I need a pillow sweater that doesn't fully match on, but it's kind of chilly, so that's what we're getting tonight.
My style is always questionable, so you are doing great.
We are going to start with the public hearing, the development grant application for the inclusive play features at the North Channel County Park. Is anyone here to speak on behalf of the development grant application for the inclusive play features at North Channel County Park? I have to say this 3 times. Is anybody here to speak on the development grant application for the inclusive play features at the North Channel County Park? Last time, anyone here to talk about the development grant application for the inclusive play features at the North Channel County Park? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. I would call the Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Roll call, please. I'm sorry. Let's do pledge allegiance. Roll call.
Commissioner Samasco.
Present.
Commissioner Baldwin.
Here.
Commissioner Beeden.
Present.
Commissioner Torello. Commissioner Rushing.
Here.
Commissioner Vandenbosch.
Here.
Commissioner Chairperson Ball.
Here. Seeing no additions or deletions to the agenda, do I have the approval of the agenda? Motion for approval?
So moved. Baldwin?
Support.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Meetings of the previous meeting, I have actually two, is this where I should put them in right now, the meetings? The two, I've received correspondence from Sean Treadaway and Mr. Ken Harris. Their comments will be put into the record. Minutes of previous meetings, A and B. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Support. Baldwin?
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Proclamations, there's none before us this evening. Items 8, consent agenda, items A through F.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve items 8A through 8F on the consent agenda.
Support.
Discussion on any of these? All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Reports standing and special committee, I'm going to start with Commissioner Vandenbosch.
We've got all the weather sirens up and working now. Had to do a reboot at Clay Township Dispatch to get it all finished up, and should have everything working. Hopefully, we don't need it.
David.
Two things. We opened a new, or Jeff White did with Lennox EMS, right on M19 at just north of the city of Memphis. So we do have a new EMS, which is going to greatly help serve Wales Township, Riley Township, Emmett Township, and so appreciate that going up. Curiosity or interesting meeting at the Riley Township Board meeting Tuesday night. They were addressing, they've had two workshops in regards to a firearm ordinance. And it was for protection, and they wanted to have berm heights and various things, add noises, but we already have a noise ordinance. And about 50 people came to the meeting, very concerned. And by the time the discussion was completed, Al Titus, the supervisor, asked if anybody would support an ordinance within the township, and nobody raised their hand. They asked who would not support firearm ordinance, because as Georgia would know, once you have an ordinance, you become the enforcing agent. And we wouldn't be counting on the county sheriff to come enforce state law. They'll come for the emergencies, just like the state police. But what we'd have to do then is if a neighbor wanted to complain about another neighbor, you'd have to actually send your enforcement officer out to investigate to see if there was really a disturbance. So, but except for two people, everybody voted it. We do not want a firearm ordinance. That might be coming around because with all the red flag laws that are being addressed in Lansing. So, that's it.
Okay. Steve.
Well, the Parks and Rec Committee met yesterday, and we talked a little bit about the playground equipment issue that Dave Rushing asked about, and I inquired about it, and evidently the grant involved playground equipment for persons with disabilities, and there were a lot of regulations and things related to that, and it was an estimate, so that's why it was a little pricier than normal. I believe our park director is going to be here today to talk about that. I don't see him, but I thought he might show up and answer any questions. But other than that, that was the only matter that I had addressed between now and 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Georgia.
None this evening.
Lisa.
Nothing to report.
I'm going to take a pass. Citizens wishing to address the board, Tiffany Turk, China Township, Eddie Loan, and EDA grant.
It shouldn't be the role of the county to fund or continue to fund projects for Chairman Bohm and his friends, as will be discussed tonight in regards to the loan extension for Eddy Development, and the grant recommendation for a new EDA center. Thriving businesses don't typically request loan extensions, and the burden of a failing business venture shouldn't be on the back of the county when it doesn't benefit the people in any way. It'll only use more man-hours within the county to keep track of loan payments and billing and statements. Regardless where grant funding comes from, it's all taxpayer dollars when it comes down to it, and the EDA shouldn't be utilizing those resources. If the EDA wishes to receive a new center that they can operate out of, then they should work with the banks that they already have sponsors from.
Jamie Murray, Loan BOC.
I'd like to talk about the loan that was extended to Eddy Development also. First and foremost, I did not know that St. Clair County was a financial institute where private citizens can come and get $250,000 loans at 3%, interest only. Kevin received a lot of information today, and I'm reading the terms of this loan, and it's my understanding that actually that there were no payments made on this loan. So you can correct me if I'm wrong, but $250,000, and I guess is that kind of loan open to anybody, any private citizen in St. Clair County? Is this the first time we've done a loan like this? Does anybody know? Yeah, I don't know either, because I know several people that would probably like $250,000 at 3%, interest-only payments quarterly to start a new business. And this loan should have been called in, if I'm correct, that there's been no payments made until the recent one. We would have all been foreclosed on, and the bank would have stepped in and taken the property if we couldn't come up with the money. So I don't understand why the county is doing this for a private citizen, and then our Board of Commissioner is moved all his business there, a bar. This doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't look good. And optics really do matter, because everything he's doing, and you all go along with it, it makes everybody look bad, because it really looks really bad. This whole situation does. And sometimes I wonder, it's like, do you guys have to go along with this stuff, or do you approve it because you agree with it? I mean, I'd like to hear more from the other commissioners on what their thoughts were. And then I'm also curious, last week, Jeff abstained from voting. So my question is, anything from the beginning of this loan deal, did he vote on anything through the whole process of granting this? I'd like to know, because why abstain now if you've already voted? So I'm kind of curious to see how that plays out too. Thank you.
Kevin Linke, Eddy.
Yeah, I'm also here to talk about this loan. I just got a FOIA request, 700, 800 documents. I would hope that all you commissioners have looked into this loan. The original purpose of the loan was for a senior development center. Never happened. It's not going to happen. Said it was supposed to start in 2022, be completed in 2023. They've done nothing on it. Jeff literally fleeced the entire community, sold this senior community center to get this money. The other issue with the loan is that there's terms to this loan. Eddy Development was supposed to be making quarterly payments on this loan. If they didn't, they were supposed to be defaulted. Guess what? Eddy Development has never made a single payment on this loan. There was a $15,000 check cut to the county back in, I believe, April, either just prior or just after they asked for the extension. But my understanding, reading it, is that $15,000 was the service fee for asking for the loan extension. And I may be wrong. It may be the interest they finally paid, but they're not making their quarterly payments. So if they haven't honored the loan agreement to this point, why would you extend this loan any farther and any more for a little bit of money? You know, there's a lot of problems with this loan. They haven't honored it. They haven't followed the agreement. Eddy Development should have been defaulted the minute they didn't make their first payment on the interest. And I have all the documents. They didn't make a payment. There's an issue here. You all better be very careful that you don't put yourselves in a position to be indicted for misappropriation of public funds. Because I'm telling you right now, the feds are aware of this. The state is aware of this. So if you want to go along with Jeff, that's your prerogative. But understand, he may be leading you into a jail cell. And federal litigation is very expensive. I can attest to that personally. Ms. Torres can tell you how much her firm charges for federal litigation. This loan was a bad loan from the beginning. It's a bad loan now. If you extend it, you are basically shitting on this county and this community. And you're doing him a favor, and he doesn't deserve it. And this is just not how it's supposed to be. You know, you're talking, Mr. Rushing or Commissioner Rushing made a comment, you know, $250,000, you know, in the grand scheme of county business, not that much money, but still $250,000. Like, a lot of money for a very little investment or a little return. I think what we did the numbers was $7,500. Is that your percent? So you gave out $250,000 to make $7,500. That seems kind of shady to me and a little suspicious and doesn't really seem like worth the investment. But you know, if you guys are gonna, if you haven't read all the documents I've read, you guys might want to table this issue until you do and see exactly the payment history, the original terms, and how they haven't been being followed, and what this loan was for. This loan was not for a parking lot and to benefit the YMCA and to do all of that. This loan was for a senior development center. And I'll tell you what their plan was here. They were going to develop Eddy, get a bunch of people in there, use the YMCA as an anchor tenant, fill it, and then sell it and make a huge profit. That's not happening because they haven't got the Y in there. And I would bet that Eddy Development does not have the money to repay this loan, or it's earmarked for something else, and that's why they want the extension. So you guys should vote no on extending this loan. Do the right thing. The community begs you. Thank you.
Joe Bixler, ARPA funding.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Joe Bixler, I'm a resident of the south side of Port Huron. I live in the district of Lisa Beaton, my commissioner. I'm here today to express my concerns about the balance of ARP funds that you have to arrive at a decision about. It's my understanding that the board is considering the release of the remaining $14 million of the original $31 million that you received, and are considering passing those funds on to local municipalities. Let me be clear. I believe that's not a wise choice to make. Local municipalities, as you know, have received their own share of ARP funds and have and are in the process of making plans to use those funds for their constituents' needs. Further, the board has as many as a dozen projects on a list, if not, most of which, if not all, could be suitable projects for the ARP funds. One that was brought to my attention recently is the potential move of the health department. That move alone will require significant investment to relocate and more than a suitable use of ARP funds that will benefit all the citizens of St. Clair County. If you insist on sending ARP funds to the municipalities, I'd like to give a suggestion. I would suggest that you consider a competitive block grant process whereby municipalities must develop a competitive project summary in the form of an application and provide evidence of public benefit in a specific project. And I would recommend that of those $14 million, maybe you take $1 million or $2 million and put that into the block grant bank, if you will. Funds should not be used just to be placed in a water fund for future consideration. Consider the ARP timelines and possibly insist that the projects have an economic development benefit to the public. Further, I would suggest that you bring some expertise and general citizen input to the process who could make recommendations to the board of what projects have the necessary merit for your approval. Thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts, and if I can be of assistance as you move forward with regards to the ARP funds, I'd be happy to help in any way I can. Thanks.
Hey, Joe, and I don't want comments, but just send me an email because I would like to talk to you.
I sent you an email a week or so ago and you didn't respond.
Please send me another one.
Okay.
I read everything, so I must have
You
missed
didn't
it.
read mine.
I apologize.
Libby Prill, funding in general.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I feel that the board should stop looking for excuses to not release ARPA funds to municipalities. Joe, I respectfully disagree with you. Port Huron received $18 million in ARPA funds, and there's a lot of things that could have been done with that money right here within the city. You should know your funding needs for a new health department building, which should have been a focus for this board rather than an EDA serving use of 26 Mile Road. The ARPA funds should support county projects and local municipal needs that provide direct benefits to taxpayers. Please address the broadband issue and then release the remaining ARPA funds to municipalities tonight. I feel that we've waited long enough. I suggest that you seek brownfield funds or other grants to renovate or relocate the health department as the EDA is doing for their headquarters. The EDA is asking for $750,000 in brownfield funds to renew 1.7 acres of property at Vantage Point. The plans include office space, meeting, and training rooms, and they're even asking for funding for a bar for entertainment purposes. I'm assuming that the long-term big picture is the development of a convention-type center, which I support in concept. But it would be helpful if some things were clarified for us. I'm a little late to this, and frankly, I don't understand everything about brownfield money. If this grant is from the revolving fund, is the county or EDA responsible for the repayment? Are the terms 1.5% for 15 years, and at the end of 15 years, will it be paid in full, or will a note be due that requires refinancing? If the county is responsible for the loan repayment, how will this be funded if the EDA is exempt from paying property taxes? Now, you may have discussed this in other meetings and I just wasn't here, but it would really be helpful to get a recap on that when you go to discuss whether you're going to approve this tonight, because it really is a lot of money at stake. And I agree, the county should not be in the business of banking. 2 weeks ago, there was a concern for approving a resolution to oppose locating companies that are affiliated with hostile foreign entities within our county. Frankly, I can't help but feel a little suspicious that some of our board members want to leave this door open in order to bring a CCP-affiliated manufacturer to St. Clair County. Never should our county support any entity that directly or indirectly benefits a hostile foreign government. The resolution specifically shows respect to ethnic groups, distinguishing between people and governments. You need to pass this tonight. The board is also scheduled to vote on an extension of an unsecured loan for the Eddy Center. I don't think that we should be engaged in using public funds for unsecured loans. I do support Eddy Center and want to see it thrive, but Jeff, I just feel there's too much of a conflict of interest between that and the board. And
You need to wrap it up.
okay. And I also want to say, you know, the elephant in the room, the altercation last week.
You need to wrap it up.
Okay.
All right.
I think it really demonstrated.
I can't let you go on. Everybody gets 3 minutes.
Okay.
All right, thank
Can
you.
I fill out another slip?
No, you cannot.
All
You're
right,
allowed 3
well-
minutes per meeting.
Okay. Just-
That's just fair for everybody.
Okay, we're going to move on to unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business to come before us? Moving on to new business, item A.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve the information technology policy.
Support.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Item B.
This time, I move to approve the May 2023 county disbursements in the amount of $19,597,233.90.
Discussion. Roll call.
Commissioner Samasco?
Yes.
Commissioner Baldwin?
Yes.
Commissioner Beeden?
Yes.
Commissioner Rushing?
Yes.
Commissioner Vanden Bosch?
Yes.
Commissioner Chairperson Bone?
Yes. Item C.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the application for the title 4D Cooperative Reimbursement Program for the Friend of the Court for a term of 10/1/23 through 9/30/28 in the amount of $16,488.993.
Support.
Discussion. Roll call.
Commissioner Baldwin?
Yes.
Commissioner Beeden?
Yes.
Commissioner Rushing?
Yes.
Commissioner Vanden Bosch?
Yes.
Commissioner Samasco?
Yes.
Commissioner Chairperson Bone?
Yes. Item D.
This time I'd move to approve the 2023 Operation Stone Garden grant application amount of $341,250.00.
Support.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Item E.
This time, I'd like to make a motion to approve fiscal year 2023 Child Adolescent Health Center Program Implementation Grant for the Algonac Community School District in the amount of $180,000.
Support.
Discussion.
Yeah, can we table this? Just a joke.
Oh, my gosh. So I do have a question,
I
though.
object to Commissioner Rushing's joke.
Right. So the delay in this, is there a dollar, or are we losing dollars from postponing it?
So it will delay the start of the program, so, that 30 days will be funds that won't be able to be spent probably.
Okay. So out of the 180, and I think it came to us a little bit late, but we won't see that entire $180,000 because we won't have time to spend it within the parameters of the grant?
That's likely correct. It'll be a reimbursement basis, so whatever we spend, we'll get reimbursed for.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Item F.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve fiscal year 2023 Child Adolescent Health Center Program Implementation Grant for Yale Public Schools in the amount of $180,000.
Support.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Item G, Commission on Aging appointments.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to appoint the Commission on Aging, to the Commission on Aging, Todd Bigger in District 5 for the remainder of a 3-year term expiring 12/31 of 25, and Elizabeth Zawilski, member at large for the remainder of a 3-year term expiring 12/31/24.
Support.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Item H.
This time, I move to approve the 2023 Bulletproof Vest Partnership Program in the application in the amount of $5,775.
Support.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Item I.
This time I would move to approve the amended Brownfield redevelopment grant application for the redevelopment of 303rd Street, the amount of $750,000.
Support.
Discussion.
So is there any update to this or there were some questions raised, so are there any, I don't know, anyone to speak to it?
Up the dollar amount. You got to submit the application
Okay.
for it, so it's pretty cut and dried.
Good.
Is this before or after public hearing? Is there a public hearing on this already or no?
There's no public hearing on that.
This is just to submit for the grant, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Opposed.
Item J, the broadband consultant recommendation.
What are you looking at me for? I'll start. I made enough noise last month or a couple weeks ago on my position on that. Did a written statement on my analysis and thoughts and so forth. I'll kind of leave it at that. At this point, I know that we have a recommendation from staff, and I know that Carrie submitted a memo on, how she handled all that. I accept all that. I do have a significant disagreement with the selection process, the result of the staff recommendation. I put this proposal out. I kind of regret that now because it morphed into something that really won't benefit my district. It may get another updated strategic plan on a shelf someplace and maybe apply for a grant for, something down the road and all that, kind of like the 26-mile road, $147,000 weight trim grant. I get that, and that's what counties do, but that was not the reason I put that forward. I was looking for boots on the ground, verification, challenging of FCC, self-reporting on uploads and downloads and all that. So I pushed it pretty hard, and I don't think there's support for that at this time. So at the close of the commentary, and I'd like to hear what other commissioners think. I did my thing in writing a couple weeks ago. I would like to see the wideband group get that contract. I know it's $102 2,000 versus the 68,000, and for the reasons I put on the record and all that. I think it's important we do that. I did read the memo from Carrie, and I understand her position, and I, with due respect, think she's wrong on that, but sometimes we disagree. We have to agree to disagree. So if, short of, I'd like to hear some more discussion on it. I would like one more opportunity to speak. My intention would be to move to table that indefinitely. Would not spend the money now, even the 68,000, and maybe see where it goes a little bit. You know, Mercury's out there slinging cable right now. Other companies are doing stuff. There's bead money, there's robbing money. There's still things going on.
So what you're saying is give Mercury the opportunity to get started and get going?
It wasn't
and
just
see-
about Mercury, but yeah, I mean, I'm going to vote no on this recommendation if it goes to a vote, because I don't feel that's the right person for the job. In my experience as an attorney for 40 years, I deal with experts all the time. I went to the meeting, went to the committee meeting. I was there for every meeting, had a lot of questions, did my due diligence. I really firmly believe that broadband, you know, in my district is probably the most affected, rural broadband. Other districts are less affected, and I was really pushing that. In fact, it was one of my things in my election last year of interest to people in my community, and that's why I put the time in that I did. So that's kind of where I'm coming from on it. I'd like to hear from other commissioners, see how they feel about it, but at the close of that, I'd like to be able to make a motion to just table it and then indefinitely, and we'll bring it back when we think we need to, and either the same or different. That's kind of where I'm coming from.
Georgia.
So I would be totally comfortable with either taking no action or postponing it or however you felt. If the RFP, the way it went out, wasn't how you initially intended, because your district is probably one of the more affected, and I think Dave's district probably, our districts probably don't have the same issues. So I do think that those who are most affected need to have probably the loudest voice in it. The only other thing to that, and I was not at last week's meeting, I apologize for that. What I will say about the process is I know there was an impropriety on this side of staff, and so I was really bothered by those comments. I think it's okay to, you know, agree to disagree. That's what we're going to do. That's what we should be doing. But as far as the accusations that there was impropriety as far as communication, I do disagree with based on everything that I had seen and what I'd done. But as far as coming to who was the best at the end of the day based on what you envisioned maybe, and maybe the RFP didn't encompass all of that, then it maybe now, I would agree that now is not the proper time to move forward. So that's.
Anybody?
Just a couple things, and not to say it was improper, but there was an email sent in, and at that point, because prior to that, they were excluded, broadband were excluded. Then an email justified.
You're talking Urban Wireless, was it?
I'm sorry.
Urban Wireless.
Urban Wire, I'm sorry. Thank you. And then they were put back on the table. And the letter stated that wideband wouldn't be able to use ARPA funds for it, but prior to that, they would have qualified. But now that we have a lower bid, it eliminated just about everybody because they got the email that came in. And they just simply asked, from my understanding, is that how's the process going? And they got a reply from it. And they went from 112,000 down to the 60,000. And at that point, I think that's where we're standing. So I got concerns that I brought up 2 weeks ago. I think Steve Smasco's done a fantastic job forwarding this to get to where we are. And I just want the best for my district, which is very similar to his district in regards to the broadband and who's going to represent us.
I would move to table at this point, just table indefinitely.
I can support that.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Smasko?
Yes.
Commissioner Baldwin?
Yes.
Commissioner Beeden?
Yes.
Commissioner Rushing?
Yes.
Commissioner Vanden Bosch?
Yes.
Commissioner Chairperson Bone?
Yes. Item K, the landfill letter of credit increase.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve the late in the day, letter of credit with North Star Bank for the Smiths Creek landfill in the amount of $3,500,000 with a cost of $8,750 per year.
Support.
Discussion. Roll call.
Commissioner Baldwin?
Yes.
Commissioner Beeden?
Yes.
Commissioner Rushing?
Yes.
Commissioner Vanden Bosch?
Yes.
Commissioner Smasko?
Yes.
Commissioner Chairperson Bone?
Yes. Landfill new electric service.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the new electrical service at the Smith Creek Landfill in the amount of $17,866.69.
Support.
Discussion. Roll call.
Commissioner Beeden?
Yes.
Commissioner Rushing?
Yes.
Commissioner Vanden Bosch?
Yes.
Commissioner Samasco?
Yes.
Commissioner Baldwin?
Yes.
Commissioner Chairperson Bone?
Yes. Item M.
This time, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Mead and Hunt Environmental Assessment Phase 2 for the airport in the amount of $129,131.
Support.
Discussion. Roll call.
Commissioner Rushing?
Yes.
Commissioner Vanden Bosch?
Yes.
Commissioner Samasco?
Yes.
Commissioner Baldwin?
Yes.
Commissioner Beeden?
Yes.
Commissioner Chairperson Bone?
Yes. Item N.
This time, I move to approve the Spark Grant application for the North Channel County Park in the amount of $200,000.
Support. Baldwin?
Discussion. All in favor?
Just a little. I brought my concerns last time. Steve Samasco addressed it at the Park and Rec meeting, I believe Wednesday night, and I think it's a good chunk of change for a swing and necessaries, but I guess that's what it's required.
Well, I think it was an estimate as well, but what they do is when you're going for grants, sometimes you go for obscure grants because nobody else is going for the grant. You know, there's a lot of grants all over, and a lot of people want the grants that are wide open. Well, this particular grant was for a segment of the population that was disabled in certain ways, and there was all kinds of regulations, so it was a higher estimate, but it still was an estimate on the high side, I guess. So we don't know, I don't think, what the actual figures are going to be. That's how they explained it to me.
I got no issues with handicap and, accessibility for some of our residents that need that type of equipment, but it just seemed a little excessive. That was my concern.
Anyone else? All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Item O.
This time, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agreement for ambulance millage distribution with Brockway Township.
Support.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Item P.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agreement for ambulance millage distribution for the city of Richmond.
Support. Beeden.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Item Q.
Oh, I'm sorry. This time, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agreement for the ambulance millage distribution with Lynn Township.
Support.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Item R.
This time I would move to approve a District 1 American Rescue Plan project for Clyde Township for a DPW feasibility study, digitalizing township records, park safety improvements, computer service updates, and some ditching in the amount of $50,000.
Support.
Discussion. Roll call.
Commissioner Vanden Bosch?
Yes.
Commissioner Samasco?
Yes.
Commissioner Baldwin?
Yes.
Commissioner Beeden?
Yes.
Commissioner Rushing?
Yes.
Commissioner Chairperson Bone?
Yes. Item S.
This time, I move to approve the District 1 American Rescue Plan project for Clyde Township in the amount of $2,100 for annual ARPA reporting.
Support.
Discussion.
Say I need to correct that, Grant Township.
Roll call.
Commissioner Samasco?
Yes.
Commissioner Baldwin?
Yes.
Commissioner Beeden?
Yes.
Commissioner Rushing?
Yes.
Commissioner Vanden Bosch?
Yes.
Commissioner Chairperson Bone?
Yes. Item T.
Who's got T? I've got you. Okay, I'll do T. Well, I'd move to approve Resolution 2312. This is my proposal regarding a resolution for funding of companies owned by interests hostile to the state or the nation. I will indicate, however, the one I submitted was kind of a work copy, and it has some, I think I spelled Chinese with a Z. I might be going to clean that up, but yeah, I think people get the point of what I was talking about. I know there was some request for some time to look at that from Commissioner Beeden. I'm not sure where that is, but I did feel that it was appropriate to recognize our federal legislators that are fighting the fight in that regard. And I think, as Ms. Prill stated, there's people in the community that have these fears that this commission might support something like that, and that's why I threw that out. I came across the Federal Registry comments by McLean and this other fella and put it together, added it. You know, I don't see why we wouldn't pass it. I did try to be careful not to make it an ethnic issue because there was no problem with the Chinese people as such. It's the Chinese government, it's the CCP and people of that nature, and the tentacles that are going out into the countries and our nation and so forth. So that's why I did it. I think it's important. That's my motion.
Support.
Discussion.
Can it be with the corrections? Do we have to do that? Okay.
I
To
would
clean it up?
greatly appreciate it.
I volunteer to
I
help
think
do
that
that.
I think it was Lisa
I
sent it.
offered also to help with some
I said good call.
grammar and
I said
spelling.
good call. I type some of the stuff myself, sometimes on my couch in my living room when everyone else is asleep. So that's the problem.
Any other discussion?
I do have a little bit of discussion, if I may. So on its face, I guess I'm in two spots. Resolutions, for the most part, I can struggle with if they're just supporting an idea and not specific to a House bill or to any bill, that type of thing. Resolutions, when it's financial in nature, it's for a specific project. I can get behind. Sometimes, I think in years past, some of the commissioners who have been here a lot longer than I have, reference when you were looking at several resolutions a night that were brought forth that had really nothing to do with anything happening here locally. I think this one touches more locally because of what's happening specifically in the state of Michigan. So to that end, I don't have any issue with it. So, I guess all of that said, I'll support this tonight with the cleanup, but to the delay in things. So when Commissioner Torello called me after the meeting with, when we postponed or didn't take any action for the health department for those two resolutions to support the grant, I think that's the appropriate thing to do. I think if people don't have enough information, the first thing we should do is give everyone as much time to gather as much information as they need to make the right decision. So I was fully supportive of Commissioner Torello's request, even knowing that there was a chance it was going to cost us money, that we were going to leave money on the table at the end of the day. So I have to say that I don't think anything in this is necessarily time sensitive. I don't think there's something before a municipality that this has to be on the books right now. So I was a little disappointed to see that when another commissioner asked for the same consideration, another 2 weeks wasn't going to be given. So I will always support someone being able to do all of their due diligence, and I just want to say that I support this resolution just as I supported Commissioner Torello's request as well.
Okay, anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Opposed?
Okay, item U.
At this time, I would move to approve the extension of the Eddy Development LLC loan out to 7/31/24, increasing the interest rate to 5%.
Support?
Steve, I know you did some homework on this. Do you want to talk about it?
Well, we have an obligation. I guess the best way to put it is, I've been a lawyer almost 40 years, and you sit and watch proceedings, and you sit and watch people try to convince other people of things, and sometimes people don't listen. A judge may have a preconception, litigants, parties don't listen to each other. Well, we have people coming here giving us information, making essentially allegations. When Mr. Linke comes here and wants me to look into Commissioner Bohm's personal life, I really have no intention of doing that. Well, again, my point is, but what I do look into is if there's an allegation of self-dealing, allegation of fraudulent behavior, criminal activity, that gets my attention. And I have been pretty much a lone ranger in a lot of what I do. I try to do my own due diligence. I try to rely on others as little as possible, except for to gather information. So, I'll start by commenting, and I think it's important, and I didn't mean any disrespect to Mr. Linke, but what I'm trying to say is there's certain things we must look at, and I do look at, and I want people to know that. Mr. Linke invited us tonight to look at these documents. Well, here's copies of the documents. Day after the meeting, I sent an email to the administration. I had 10, 15 documents like that. I looked at the project application. I looked at the personal guarantees, loan agreement, mortgage, rent assignment, aerial graphics of the site, public hearing notice, package for public hearing, Act 381 Brownfield Plan, 38 pages, proposed development, total investment, $25 million, for projected job creation, annual tax revenues upwards to 600,000 after they do some hokey pokey with the tax stuff. SCC Metro Planning Review. That's what I got initially. That's what I asked for. Anything that was out there. This was a project that started in '21. It was actually initiated, I think, by a third party who couldn't pull the trigger on it because they didn't have the funding or whatever. The county came alongside of some people that were going to invest with monies that were essentially restricted funds. And, oh, no, Mr. Please. I don't want, Sergeant, please,
you
objection,
can't.
this is not.
No, he was just making a statement. We don't have a conversation.
Just for Commissioner Bone, part of it, I expect these meetings to be followed by Robert's rules, which members of the assembly have their 3 minutes, and then we get to talk. And with all due respect, I'll talk to you later, Mr. Linke. I'd be glad to be caught in the courthouse. You and I can sit and we'll take a park bench and we'll sit for a half an hour, no problem. And I'm not trying to pick an argument or fight with you. What I'm trying to say is I'm going to address a couple things like with Ms. Prill tonight. These are, I think, very salient points. Ms. Prill says, don't use public monies for private enterprise. Well, Mercury Broadband's out here with federal money. They're private enterprise. It's like winning the lottery. I mean, tax money goes to private enterprise. BEAD money from the state, Robin Grant money. And when they get that money, they get to keep that. And it's all theirs. It's like winning the lottery, right? And it goes to public service. So just to address Ms. Prill's concern, or people that, like Ms. Prill, there was money, as I understand it, and I'm not a financial wizard. My dad was a farmer. I'm a lawyer, but I'm not a financial wizard. These monies were in a restricted account for redevelopment of distressed properties, sat there a long time, zero interest. That's where they were. I've ascertained that on my own. Those funds were put to a project in Jeff's district. I'm sure he was involved with that. If it was in my district, I'd be involved with that. I don't know who's buddies with who's or who's drinking with who or any of that stuff. But from the perspective of the documentation, we had the money was there. It was attributed to a project, and it went to it did go to a public purpose, although it was private investors. We have Tiffany Turk telling us we shouldn't, you shouldn't need a loan extension if you're in a good business. You don't need loan extensions. Well, these things, as I understand it, and again, I'm not a financial guy, but we took a loan situation, distressed properties that were basically going to be fall in on themselves, and the county came alongside of some investors, put up money that was for that purpose under a Brownsfield grant, under the Land Bank Authority, and made that put together, and then got 3% interest. That was a good business call at that time on the board, as far as I could tell. It did not appear to me to be generated by any one individual. There was a lot of players involved. So my assessment of it was, there's nothing wrong with what the board did then. Here we are, coming out a year and a half, 2 years later now. That was a balloon note. That note provided for one lump sum payment. I don't know if there were other, Mr. Linke may know more things about it than even I do. I don't know, but it was a balloon. That balloon payment is due. Now there's a request to extend it. So the prior concept was approved at public hearings. Seems to be all above board to me from what I can see. The county had the ability to facilitate that redevelopment. We did so under this prior board. We utilized the Brownfield Land Bank, new investors. They actually had the money to do it. The application was made, public hearings were held, project was approved, and now it's a certain percent completed. I had a copy of the Times Herald article. It happened to be in the paper today. We have a new child care center out there. It sounds like what's occurring there is very beneficial to the community. I guess Commissioner Bohm has rental space there as well, but it's certainly not the only thing happening out there. The other issue is, so what do we do now? Do we extend the loan or do we not extend the loan? The loan agreement itself, we have a mortgage. We have a secure position on a mortgage. We have personal guarantees from 3 investors. I know these people from the community. Some of them invested in school property in Yale, made a senior center. They're legitimate people with money to do this. It's not like a risky loan. But so now we have personal guarantees. In my experience as a lawyer, I advise clients all the time. You don't want to sign a personal guarantee. So my assessment in looking at this is the county is secure on the mortgage, first or second position, whatever that's going to be. We have personal guarantees. In that loan document is something I've never seen. we as a county have the right to foreclose on the loan if we feel insecure. We get to call the loan if we feel insecure. So these are all reasons. We could call the loan or not call the loan. So what do we do with it? And there's people here that say we shouldn't be investing privately, this is not a public purpose, or doesn't assist the community. I disagree with that. It does help private people. Private people spend money to make money, but it also benefits the community. There's a lot of, what I can tell, good happening out there. So in looking at this, my intention would be to support it, only because it goes to 5%. I do bankruptcy work. I've done bankruptcy work for 15 years. If you foreclose on a piece of property and bugger up what's going on out there, you may get less, nothing, who knows what you're going to get, depending on how secure you are. Yes, we can call the loan, we have personal guarantees, we're not insecure in any way, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to me to start a project like that, go down the road with those people. I don't know what happened, except with supply chains and everything else that's going on, why they want the extension necessarily, but you know, to give the extension at 5%, it doesn't change our position, we're still secure. To me, it seems like a good business move. And I don't know any of the investors. I don't know the gentleman sitting in the front row that's part of this, I guess. I don't know. I did ask Jeff Bohm specifically. I do want to make a record of that in my due diligence. I'm pretty good at asking questions. I asked Commissioner Bohm, you know, are you rent-free? Answer is no. Do you have a lease? He said yes. May I see it, please? He said yes. He didn't have to show me that lease, but he did. And he shared that with me. This is private information. He gets 6,000 square feet and 2,400 square feet. He pays a lot of money for it. I didn't get as far as what market rates are and some of that, but it's certainly a lot of money for some space and a place. He's supporting a facility in his community. He should probably be commended for that as opposed to vilified, you know, because he's renting space that might not, who's going to rent a gymnasium? Probably a guy with a gym. I don't know. And I'm not here to go to bat for Commissioner Bohm, but I'm just saying from a perspective of, I live out in the west side of the county. I'm not sure what happens in St. Clair a lot, but it appears to be legitimate, and I feel obligated to make a record like this when people make accusations. I was wondering if the people making the accusations read the documents I had. Well, it sounds like they have them now, and once you read them, I've got copies if people want them. You know, it's, look at it. I'm going to vote yes to move that along. If something, you know, if it's a wrong move, I don't think it is. I think I'm compelled to support that. So that's what I've done, and that's my record.
Anyone else?
I guess just a question for Terry, because this is potentially another year, and I really appreciate Steve doing all the homework on this, if that's what you want to call it. And it is secured loan, which means that we would not be defaulting, we would not lose the current investment that we approved, and it's Brownsfield money that it has to be used for specific purposes. That is not general fund money that can just be used. It is used for that specific purpose. This project qualified for that, and that's why the money went there initially. That's my perception. That's why it was moved forward the first time. I am concerned with what Carrie said, that this might be the first time we were extending it, but I'm very confident with the secured loan that even if the gentleman, the Corporation Eddy LLC defaults, that now it's going to be coming out of personal people's monies, and it will be repaid. But my question is, why not, I don't know if we asked this, and I know I would, if I had a lease or whatever, a loan, and they needed an extension, could you do it in 6 months, or a year, or potentially payments? Just explain that to me. I think the question needs to be asked.
I don't have the answer to that question. The request was for a 1-year extension. You know, I can't speak to their business as if they could repay it in 6 months. You know, if certainly that's, if the board would like to amend the agreement and change that, you can.
I'm not sure where we'd go with that. I don't want to change what we're going to be voting on tonight. We're either going to approve it or disapprove it. Because we could put a motion, potentially a motion that says, can we see if you can pay it off in 6 months, the Corporation Eddy LLC, or if you could make quarterly payments. I don't know if that's something we'd like to do, or just a balloon payment.
It probably would not be problematic to do a 6-month extension if they want another 6 months. I don't know why you want to, you know, to me, 6 months or a year doesn't make a lot of difference to me. The other point I think that Commissioner Baldwin had, the question was, if the money's pulled back, do we have other projects to put them towards that would gain interest? And I understand from planning we don't. that if we did call that money back in, it would just essentially sit there at zero interest. Do you know if that's true or not, Carrie?
So we do not have any other current CDB eligible projects waiting in the wings. We could certainly do a call for new projects.
Right, but if we did call it back, it's not like there's 5 or 6 other projects that need that money. There's nothing eligible at the moment. We could maybe generate some. Is that how that works?
That is correct, and the funds are from old HUD funds, and they have to be used for CDGB purposes under the Community Development Block Grant rules. And this project, the
That's redevelopment of
rehabilitation of
distressed
old
property.
schools,
Is that what that is, essentially?
it does fall under there, yes.
And that's what this was, two schools that were essentially abandoned and trying to figure out a way to put them back into good purpose, right?
Any other questions?
No, I think that was my first question was, is there somewhere else to spend this money? If we call it back, it just sits. And then my other, thought was when you look at the list of tenants, so there's the YMCA, and I know one of the biggest challenges with the YMCA was trying to get through licensing through the state of Michigan, or that would have been up and running probably over a year ago. But the Friends of St. Clair River are in there. There's a food pantry. There's a CPR training place. So it is a pretty good mix of, there's retail, there's gym, there's a realtor, and then some nonprofits. And I think that probably checks a lot of the boxes for.
I don't know who has the motion, but I'd feel more comfortable if we could do it 6 months and then possibly renew it again another 6 months. I don't know if that's an option, but consideration.
The motion, whatever the request is for a year, if Dave has a motion to amend it to make it a 6-month extension, if he gets a second,
We have a motion to support them. I support it.
There's already a motion on the floor. So.
I have no objection to making it a 6-month. If you want to table it, see if that fits their protocol. I don't know what their plan is. I'm assuming the reason they're doing this is rather than go out in the market and shop for money to finish this project at 15% or whatever the rate is now, a 5% helps them. It helps us because the money's going to sit in the bank at zero.
Do you want to rescind your motion and make it for a 6 month?
I just need some direction on it. This thing that came in, I mean, I've looked at I think that from a business perspective, to continue supporting a project this board had supported, is where we're getting more interest, and the money's going to sit and get zero anyway. That's just a business thing, right? That's just a common sense thing. I don't know what you might know more, Jeff. Of course, you can't, I don't know if you can even talk at the motion, but what do they need I don't want to cut the legs off from under people. The YMCA thing looks good out there. There's a lot of, from the brownfield development proposal, there was a lot of tremendous things going to happen out there. I know the senior citizen thing turned into something else. They were going to do some senior care thing and now some other thing, and I know that happens as you go through some of this because they're redeveloping property consistent with the uses that exist in that community. I made the motion because it was on my call to do so, but other than that, if they asked for the year, I made the motion for the year. I would do that because it's 5%.
Let's take a vote on the year.
The only thing I'd add too is that there's also the $15,000 loan extension fee due upon signing. So it's the 5% plus the $15,000. And I think Carrie mentioned that 2 weeks ago, but I don't think that was clear. Yeah, that's in paragraph 3.
So they're going to pay $15,000 just for the courtesy of extending it as
Correct.
well. So that's well, tell you what.
Let's keep the motion as is and let's do a roll call and see where it takes us. That makes sense?
Well, Dave, what do you think? Do you think 6 months? I don't want to cut your legs off from under you either. If you're thinking 6 months you're not going to support, if you only support 6 months, maybe something like that.
Yeah, I would support 6 months. Concerned about a year. I don't know all the specifics on it. I know that it was, this property would have been tore down.
I'll do it this way. I'll rescind my motion, rephrase it to make it a 6-month extension, subject to another 6 months extension for good cause. If they can establish good cause for the additional 6 months, that would cover us to say, okay, but let's get this handled so we're not going out beyond that. So the 6 months gives them a target for good cause, and it can be a number of things. It can be licensing, it can be supply chains, it can be, who knows what. Would that work?
I have my own business, and there's a lot of things that you have to go through.
Would that work for you, Dave, if we do it that way, if we make it 6 months and additional 6 for good cause, subject to the board's approval? That work, Jeff?
I'm going to abstain, so it's whatever.
Okay, well, whoever's, whatever.
I seconded your initial motion, so.
So now you can call the vote on the restated motion 6 months with another 6-month extension for good cause. And
Are we good with that?
I'm good.
Roll call.
Commissioner Baldwin.
Carrie, are you okay with that? Does that sound, any problems, Poppy? You're kind of,
No, I'll work with legal counsel on
Okay.
what that verbiage would look like in the agreement.
okay, thank you. All right, sorry about that, go ahead.
Will there have to be another vote in 6 months?
Only if it's not paid in the 6 months, there'd be a determination of good cause and a further extension, I would assume.
Who's
That's
going
my,
to determine what good cause is?
well, under the law, good cause is whatever this board feels is good cause.
So there'll have to be a vote.
I would say so, I would think so. That's how I'd envision it. The public could comment on it, and maybe we can look into get more information and, you know, get more things, see what, oh, no, I can't talk to you.
Okay. So roll call.
Commissioner Baldwin.
Yes.
Commissioner Beeden.
Yes.
Commissioner Rushing.
Yes.
Commissioner Vanden Bosch.
Yes.
Commissioner Samasco.
Yes.
Commissioner Chairperson Bone.
I'm abstaining. Item V.
This time I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 23-11 imposing the 2023 property tax levy.
Support Baldwin.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? 13, Administrators Report.
I have mentioned to you in the past that administration is moving forward or looking into new agenda software. Our Novus agenda software is way beyond life and it hasn't been supported for numerous years. So we have made a selection and we expect full implementation by year end. The library roof project, we expect the RFP to be issued in July. The architect had to do just a little bit of testing on some of the materials to put the final pieces into the RFP. Once those RFPs out, that contract will come back to you, and we anticipate it'll take 3 to 4 weeks to have the project complete, but there should not be any need to shut down library operations. There may be a day or two where it's a bit noisy when they're removing the old material, but there should not be any shutdowns. Audit is wrapping up. We're currently reviewing our draft of our 2022 audit. Right now, we're targeting the formal presentation to the board at either the July full board meeting or August committee. I think it may be likely August committee, but we'll check and see what the agendas look like. The medical director's selection process has been going well. We have interviewed 3 candidates, and we are currently in the credentialing process. And we expect a contract to come to you in July, an employment contract. We were able to find a candidate very well qualified, U.S. Army physician. He has board certified in public health. He has his MPH, board certified in preventative medicine. So I think he'll be very well qualified and do well for the county.
Did you go to school in Zweibrücken?
And just as a reminder, the county is closed on Monday for Juneteenth. I know that holiday was added last year, so wanted to make sure everybody knew that we were closed. That's all.
Any questions for Carrie? Seeing none, do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Miscellaneous business. Is there any miscellaneous business coming for us? Seeing none, receive and file.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to receive and file packets that were sent to commissioners, packets at their places, and any other information presented.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
14 or 16, adjournment.
Motion to adjourn. Baldwin.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.